What's up, everybody, and welcome to this brand new live episode of Game Time here on the Game Time Sports Channel here on YouTube, brought to you by the Outlaw Nation. I'm the Outlaw John Rocha, joined, and look, we should give him all kinds of flowers for joining us after another debilitating loss in the playoffs for his Dallas Cowboys. Welcome to the show, people. Winston A. Marshall. Winston, how are you? How you feeling, bro?
I genuinely, what YouTube suppresses after 15 seconds, right? So I'm gonna give it 5, 4, 3, all the swearing.
Oh,
2,
that's right. Yes.
1. Man, fuck the Cowboys. I don't give a fuck.
Wow.
Look, let's be honest. They're my team. Anytime my team loses, I'm gonna be upset. Sorry for all the moving around, y'all. It's been a busy morning. I'm going to be upset anytime my team loses. It is what it is. But at the same time, for everybody, whenever I'm like, this is our year, fool, like, let's be real about how hard it is to win a Super Bowl. It is not easy. I have said for weeks that this was the Niners championship to lose at this point. They look like the most well-rounded team. We'll talk about this game and what happened and what's going on. But I consider that there's a phrase my mom always used to say that, like, God or the universe, whatever you believe, will release you from things that you no longer need in your life. You know what I don't need? Any more stress from the Cowboys playing football. I have other things to worry about. So it is what it is. Was I sad? Literally for about 2 minutes. And then I was like, then I stopped back and I look at that last fucking play and I was like, we're not a serious organization. Well, of course, whatever.
All right. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, I can understand that. It must be tough. You know, you got situations where, you know, you can't get away from a kicker. I understand those things. I mean, I understand
that he almost had it, but that's you know, it is what it is. I give Turpin credit there because when you're moving that fast, man, you got to make quick decisions. And I'm sure on the inside, if you play it one more time, there's a dude kind of waiting for him. He needed to go to the outside and he couldn't because even though he got a block there.
Yeah.
Like you see, even though we got a block there to kind of cover this other dude, if he had tried to cut to the outside, he's losing the foot race a little bit. Like, and it wasn't even like a super great block. So he can only do so much. So at that, unless you're going to truck the kicker, but you see, he tried to do a spin move. Turpin is fast. He's not big. He's not trucking anybody. So,
but it was a white kicker, Winston. I'm just gonna put that out there. Anyway,
okay, wait a minute. You act like they were some serious white boys that out here whooping ass. Okay, first of all, let's take a look at Conor McGregor. He's been getting his ass whooped.
You can't compare Robbie Gould to Conor McGregor.
That's a serious white boy that can fuck you up. Who else you got? Rocky. Rocky. I know it's fictional, but he be fucking people up. What's the big boy? Tyson Fury? Tyson
Fury, yes.
That is a big white boy that be hurting people. Let alone you got Nick Bosa's ass on this Niners team. He's a white boy that fuck you up. I get he's a white kicker, but don't act like white boys can't fuck you up if they really need to. I'm sure if he got one quick just he could have knocked Turpin on his ass, but that's not legal, you know.
Dim says, can we get some Commanders highlights? Sure, Dim, I can put on the Commanders highlights against the Cowboys. Do you want to see that? I feel like you don't want to see that, but all right, Dim, I can put that on for you if you need me to.
If that makes y'all feel better. I mean, it was silly, but at the same time, what was there to gain to like blow y'all out? We weren't winning the division.
Right. I'm just busting his balls, man, because he's trying to come in here. Anyway, let's get into these games. We've got so much going on. We got 4 games we're going to cover. We're going to dive in deep into all the games and talk about them extensively here on the show. We appreciate you all hanging out with us. Already 35 of you joining us right off the bat. Make sure you hit a like on this video. More than anything else, subscribe to the channel. If you've stumbled upon our show and you dig the NFL talk we got going on here, then subscribe to the channel and hit that bell button so you see we're dropping all the sports content we do. Trying to get to 1,000 subscribers for this channel so we can monetize this channel. Would appreciate you all getting on board and hanging out with us and subscribing to the channel down below. Also, if you want to send in your Streamlabs to support everything we got going on here, you got a question, thought, or comment you want to send us about the playoffs, send it into the Streamlabs. I've already pinned it in the chat there for you all to hit us up and let us know what you think. All right, let's jump into the first game here. We got to start with the Chiefs. With the Buffalo Bills and the Cincinnati Bengals. That's the game we're going to start with right off the bat here. Joe Burrow walking into snowy Orchard Park, New York, there to take on these Buffalo Bills. Damar Hamlin was in the house, and he was there to motivate and inspire the Buffalo Bills, but it was all for naught because the Cincinnati Bengals, his dem boys, walked in here. Joe Burrow went 23 of 36 for 242 yards, threw 2 touchdowns, was cool as the other side of the pillow, as the great Stuart Scott used to say. And Josh Allen was just swarmed all over the place by this Cincinnati defense, and they ended up beating the Bills there 27-10. Burrow had completed his first 9 passes for 105 yards, and by the time he was doing that, Cincinnati was already up 14-0. This seemed like child's play for the Bengals for a majority of the game here. Winston, Jamar Chase had a 28-yard touchdown. Hayden Hurst had a 15-yard touchdown. Evan McPherson made field goals from 20 and 28 yards. Joe Mixon had himself a touchdown as well and ran for 105 yards. Just a shocking game overall. For me watching it, thought this was going to be a much more tighter game. And in the end, they walked into Buffalo's old house with Buffalo's weather and whipped the shit out of them. So what do you take out of this game? What do you take from both of these teams here coming out of this playoff game?
I mean, I've been saying this about the Bengals all season. Sure, They started off really rocky. I mean, we whooped their ass. They got beat by other teams. It didn't make sense. But I think a lot of that was Super Bowl hangover. Yeah, Pittsburgh too. It was Super Bowl hangover, and that is a very real thing. The deeper you go in the playoffs, a lot of times that can really have a little bit of an effect because you've got this mentality that's there. Yeah. You have to get back to what you were doing or better. There's a lot that can kind of happen that can mess you up. You even come in sometimes with like this new swagger that you're that guy, you're that team, and someone goes, "Bitch, this is still the NFL. This is still the NBA." You know what I'm saying? So like, I wasn't worried about the Bengals, and on top of that, despite their record, I know they're only 1 game difference here. I had the Bengals winning that game against the Bills that unfortunately got stopped. And I had them winning this one too. The Bills are very, very good. They're a good team, but the Bengals have proven that they are the team to beat in the AFC. I have them beating the Chiefs as well, though the Chiefs will give them much more of a fight, in my opinion, than the Bills did. And it's not that the Bills can't get over the hump. They definitely can. But their run game has been pretty suspect all year. Yeah. But that being said, then when you're playing in the snow, I know they both threw for almost 300 yards, but like you notice how there was only 2 touchdowns thrown. And that a lot of that has to do with the fact that when you're playing in the snow like that, it's much harder to like make stuff happen. Including that last interception Josh Allen threw in a desperate attempt to try and get back. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like the Bengals, like it's just not great conditions to be throwing the ball. Yeah. So that being said, which team has a better run game? We really know the answer to that because Perrine stepped up when he needed to throughout this season, and Joe Mixon has been the man. So I'm not surprised by any of this. So that being said, I think the Bills will come back. They'll come back stronger. I know everybody kind of wanted that heartfelt story of the Bills do this for Damar. And that would have been a lovely thing to see, honestly. But it's the same way that like the Cowboys winning their first road playoff game in 30 years. You're like, is this it? Are they finally on their road? Very rarely do these magical fairy tale stories in sports come to fruition. That's why they're so special. I just genuinely think that the Bengals are the most well-rounded team in football. I think the most dangerous quarterback is Patrick Mahomes, but I still think the Bengals are a more well-rounded team. And it showed up here. It genuinely showed up here in the way that they stopped Buffalo's run game completely. And that is going to be the difference maker in bad weather.
Yeah, Joe Burrow, absolutely. This guy, it just is cool as they come. And they used to call Ryan Matty Ice. I think they should rip that moniker away from him because Joe Burrow's showing it how it's done. Marching in 2 seasons in a row now into other people's home fields and taking care of business, even down 18 points last year against the Chiefs, roared back in Kansas City and led them to a victory in overtime and into the Super Bowl. This guy is unflappable. He's 5-1 in the playoffs. Would have won that Super Bowl last year if they had had a better O-line And I think they win that Super Bowl hands down. And, you know, in this particular game, a lot of people thought the Bills were just going to chew up their offensive line because they had lost 3 of their starters who they had paid big money for to bring into the season over the last few weeks. They lost to dislocated kneecaps, to injuries, to season-ending injuries. All of them went down. So they were starring Hakeem Andanagi, who was one of the issues last year on the O-line. The Rams were just tearing him up last year in the Super Bowl. Jackson Corman, who was benched for Adeniji, so it shows you what the ranking of this guy and the status. And Max Sharping, who couldn't even get on the Texans as a starter this year on the O-line. They picked him up as kind of a backup, and all 3 of those guys started. They had a Pro Football Focus grade of 48.7 out of 100, yet somehow they destroyed the Bills' O-line and created holes for Joe Mixon to run through like crazy. And you look at the other side, Winston, you bring up a really great point. The Bills are not really known for having a good run game. They have not had that runner. It's almost like John Elway. Until he got, the Terrell Davis, John Elway could get you the Super Bowl, couldn't win it. He was always getting blown out, or he's always kind of disappointing in his performances. The Bills need to find a running back in this offseason because what they got, it's nice as it is, you need a running back in the snow, and they didn't have one, and that showed. Josh had to do it all by himself with his arm, and he couldn't get the job done.
Absolutely. I mean, again, the wind, the snow being in there, it changes trajectories of balls and all that. And obviously the Bills are going to have the advantage there, but they're not playing in snow 24/7. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. So like, it's not like this is something they do day in, day out. So they've really figured that out. And on top of that, again, with the run game, you can get low, you can kind of deal with slippery conditions if that's the case, whereas sometimes you can't get your footing to because you got to put whatever said power to be able to hop up, all sorts of stuff like that. And then finally, the Bills unfortunately suffer from a similar fate as of the Vikings as far as the receiving core. You have one of the best receivers in the game, will definitely be a first ballot Hall of Famer in Stephon Diggs, just like you have with Justin Jefferson. I think he's already on that trajectory as well. And then everybody else is okay. Jamar Chase is in that conversation for top 5 receivers in the league, but then Higgins ain't no joke. Boyd ain't no joke. And like Mixon has hands to catch out of the backfield. So he legit has options. Yeah. And Josh Allen has one killer option and then some like decent other options around. The fact that you had to bring Cole Beasley back out of retirement,
just
in order to try and be that's the thing. You know what I'm saying? So like, I am sure that at some point Josh Allen will get them to a Super Bowl. He might even win one. But I think there was a lot of stuff going on with crowning them the kings of the NFL when the Rams did fall off, but the Bengals were a play away from winning the Super Bowl. Like you're going to pretend like they don't exist. You're going to pretend like the Chiefs don't exist. Like there's killers in the AFC. So to just crown them champs, that is a dangerous game.
It's Dennis Green once said, you want to crown him? Go ahead and crown him. You're going to crown him. And certainly that's what happens here. Look, the defense of the Bengals also deserves an incredible amount of credit. They pressured Josh Allen on 20 of his 47 throws. He was held to just 3.3, or they held the running game to 3.3 yards per rush attempt. And Cincinnati on the other side converted 60% of its third down attempts. And the game plan held Buffalo to only 325 yards on offense. They were 4 of 12 on third down. Stephon Diggs ended with his 4 catches for 35 yards. And the Bills defense surrendered 412 yards to the Bengals. And I just think the Bengals, I think Taylor did a great job with the game plan here for the Bengals. He understood the situation with the O-line. He probably looked at the weather, saw there's going to be snow. So you saw Joe Burrow doing a bunch of quick passes that unsettled the defense a little bit and then created holes later on for Hayden Hurst to run through. I don't know why nobody covered that tight end the entire game. He was his safety valve, and he was getting 15, 20-yard chunks on almost every catch. It was incredible to watch. And Burrow was averaging only 2.5 seconds. That's how quickly he was getting the ball out of his hands so he wasn't sacked overall. So just really fantastic job by the Cincinnati Bengals in game planning. And everybody wants to go after Josh Allen, but I think you got to go after Sean McDermott here as well. I don't know what game plan he dialed up where he was calling a bunch of long passes in the snow for Josh Allen. There should have been more slants, more out throws, some quick dump offs to the running backs to unsettle the defense, make them cheat, make the Bengals cheat a little bit in, and then start launching those ones to Gabe Davis or Stephon Diggs. I thought it was bad game planning overall from Sean McDermott as the coach, who didn't understand the weather conditions and the limitations of his team in terms of the running game, and should have prepared a better offensive game plan, in my opinion. It's just shocking on so many levels. So you want to go after Josh Allen, fine, go after him, but spare some of your anger for Sean McDermott or some of your blame for Sean McDermott as well.
But it's all about evolution. It's how can you evolve? And when you are, like you said, you're making those adjustments for those quick dump offs. When you're aware of the fact that the conditions are best for a run game. The Bills, in my opinion, never spent this season figuring out the run game. They were okay with Singletary being kind of hit or miss.
Yes.
And sometimes because there's no options, but sometimes because you're not really looking at how you do that. There were, in my opinion, there were no adjustments, and they thought that was enough. But I think people genuinely forgot. Maybe it's because they started so poorly. People just think in their mind that the Bengals were just not good. But they're 12-4. They literally have one less win than you.
Yeah.
One. You should have put some respect on their name, damn it.
Yeah. Clearly maybe thinking they were going to, take advantage of the elements and really ride this thing out. And it was 14-0 before anybody knew what happened. And you sensed immediately almost that these Bengals weren't going to be intimidated by the situation. I mean, there's some they're a junkyard dog team, man. They really are. They're a team. They're like a prison team, man. They don't give a fuck. They're going to walk into you. I don't care who just almost died on your team. That ain't my problem. We're here to win a game. Yeah. And it's incredible to see the kind of ruthlessness from a team. And I'm telling you right now, a wounded gazelle like Patrick Mahomes facing an angry lion or angry Bengal, dare I say, like the Cincinnati Bengals, I think is dangerous times in Kansas City next week.
We're going to talk about Kansas City in a minute. Yeah. I'm very curious about how that ankle shapes up for Mahomes, because you want to talk about a defense that is going to take advantage of that. If he can't use his legs the way that he normally does, and I know he was still kind of balling, but like a lot of that's adrenaline. A lot of that, if you notice, was very minimal balling, so he didn't make it worse because
he was in the pocket up like the whole crazy second half. Winston, he only had one
with
pass,
a few exceptions. You remember the one that he did throw a last minute? I want to say it was a touchdown to Kelsey, where he kind of scrambled a little bit and then he kind of hopped on the good foot to throw the ball to Kelsey. Like it's one of those things that I think that is going to be more detrimental than people realize. I think the Chiefs defense is getting their mind right now as we're getting on a playoff roll. But the two most complete teams left in the playoffs are the Niners and the Bengals, and they are on a roll right now. Now, obviously, it's a championship game.
The two Philly fans might be mad at you,
which is fine. And I'm glad you got Hurts back. But you are honestly going to try and compare the Eagles defense to the Niners defense right now, and you clearly have the better quarterback.
Right.
But that doesn't necessarily matter if this defense can rock you. And to my knowledge, I don't think did the Eagles play the Niners this year? I don't remember.
No.
I genuinely just think that they're a little bit deadlier. And once again, this is I believe a 1-win difference here. Let's not pretend like the Eagles did something super magical and they're undefeated and they're in a league of their own. They have shown that they have weaknesses. I know it was when Hurts was not there, but I even remember you saying something earlier. You see the Eagles offense the first time, you notice how a lot of their second halves, they don't kind of roll the same way they do because they make adjustments and they're like, so this is how you deal with them. I guarantee you the Niners have been studying that shit and they are ready, bro.
Let me ask you about two more things to do with this game. Stephon Diggs, man, we saw his – tell me this. I mean, because remember when Dallas went out and Terrell Owens had that emotional press conference afterwards talking about Tony Romo, that's my quarterback. This feels like the opposite of that here, what Stephon did at the end of the game here after he'd thrown that interception. Josh Allen is kind of putting his hands out, yelling at him, saying he's open, baby, look for me. I thought this is a bad move, absolutely bad move by Stephon Diggs. And apparently he left the locker room right after the game with his shit still on his body, his uniform and pants, and he had to be convinced to come back to the locker room to change out of his stuff because he was so upset. I get that he did this demonstrative shit in Minnesota and he felt disrespected, But at some point, you've got to kind of stand up for your quarterback. You got to be there instead of blaming them because, motherfucker, you get under center and see what you can see in that snow blizzard. And if you can go through all your progressions with that kind of pressure and the O-line breaking down the way it did against that Cincinnati D-line and see if you can find Stephon Diggs out, see if you can find yourself out in the flat. So to me, I thought this was a disrespectful move by Stephon. This is not what you want to see. It's not going to help you feel. It's not going to help you as a quarterback feel like you can trust this guy. So I get passion, of course. Lord knows I know about passion in the midst of a competition, but I still think this is the bad mistake. You want to be supportive.
Well,
you handle that shit behind the scenes, man.
We don't know. I mean, the locker room thing is a different story, but like we don't know what he said to him when he put his arms up. He could have been like, "Bro, what was that? What was that? Honestly, you saw me open. What was that?"
Yeah.
And sometimes that's what needs to be said. Sometimes he could have said, "Nick, I swear to God, if you don't throw me the motherfucking ball," that could have also been what he said. But sometimes that's what
very possible.
Sometimes that's what you need. Let's look at the score. They had 10 points. That's not what they were supposed to be doing. They were supposed to be balling out. And so I totally understand said frustration, and especially if he was that wide open.
Yeah,
I get that because there was a few plays in the Dallas Niners game where you saw like Kittle being like, "Bruh."
Yeah.
Bruh. And I think it's just as we saw there, that was a rookie finally getting a taste of a team being able to get to him, and he panicked. And so he has to get used to that situation. So I think it's fine if a fight had started.
Yeah.
We're having a different conversation. If he is blaspheming him in press conferences, that's a different conversation. But to be frustrated, I think that's fair. That you worked really hard to get to this point. Yeah. And this is supposed to be the moment where you get over the hump.
And let me ask you about one more thing. Well, I was going to ask you about the touchdown, but it didn't matter in the end whether that was a touchdown or not from Jamar Chase. I don't think it was a touchdown because by the rule, he lost control of the ball as soon as he was like the linebacker had him in near the ground. So to me, you got to finish the move is what the new rule is. So to me, by the law, it's not a touchdown. In years past, I think it would have been a touchdown. But I want to ask you about something.
I don't think I saw the play. You don't have it pulled, do you?
I can have it pulled up, but let me ask you about another thing, and then you can swing back to your opinion on this. But the other part of this is that the NFL is, I mean, sometimes, man, I question the decision making coming out of the front offices. Okay. They put tickets on sale for a neutral site AFC Championship game for next week in Atlanta. They had already sold 50,000 tickets for that game. 50,000. And Joe Burrow was great in the post-game interview there on CBS when he said, "Hey, better start sending out those refunds." That was cold-blooded, but still, the idea,
bang, bang.
But the idea that the NFL would take advantage of the Damar Hamlin situation to float an idea that apparently, according to Pro Football Talk, has been discussed in the past in the competition committee, has been discussed behind closed doors, this idea of turning these championship games, both the AFC and NFC championship games, into neutral site games that they use the Hamlin thing as a backdoor way to maybe float a trial balloon out to see how people would respond to it. I think is very dirty to use a guy's near death as an opportunity to possibly find a way to make even more money as the NFL. What are your thoughts on this? If this is true,
I'm so disappointed in you, John. Honestly,
in me? What did I
do? Yeah, you act like the NFL has a soul.
They're human beings, aren't they?
Are they? Like the only time that they are ever shown shit like that is literally when they have no choice. It's literally when a man dies on the field for a few minutes and you're having to pump out God knows how many chest compressions and then rush him to the hospital and stop. At what point has the NFL ever shown us that they have a heart and a soul? They don't. Yeah. This is post-capitalism at its finest, man. So, like, I'm not surprised. The real reason why they have an extra game on the season? Not because I give a shit about player safety, because there's more money in it.
Yes.
It's the same thing with the neutral site shit. Of course, they have. I guarantee you, there's a million other plans that they have to make even more money off of us. Yeah. And they either have to slow roll them or they find an opportunity to make them happen. And that's it. And I am not surprised by that. And I'm not offended by it only because I know what monster I'm dealing with.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like I am aware of what monster we are dealing with here. So knowing that, there are far more egregious things that the NFL has done to be pissed off about than that. You know what I mean? Like, I get it. I get why people might be upset about it.
Yeah.
But that's literally like, oh my God, I can't believe that Kim Jong-un killed somebody that talked back to him. That is a goddamn disgrace. How would you do? And I'm not comparing the NFL to the Kim Jong-un. I'm just saying it. If I know somebody is going to do some evil shit, I should not be surprised when they do evil shit, unless it is the most egregious thing that's ever been seen, and in which case we need to have a different conversation. But,
well, great philosopher, to go along with what you said, great philosopher Chris Rock once said, that tiger went tiger. It did not go crazy. So you might be right. You might absolutely be right here, Winston. So,
and I love this. The Bengals are selling refund t-shirts. You goddamn right. And that's the best thing that could come of it, is that someone like Joe Burrow and that whole Bengals team could be like, y'all can, like, because like it is a certain level. I get why they're doing it. You need to kind of be ready for that situation. But there is a certain level of disrespect. So like, you know, if they screw this up, this is going to happen. Okay. Okay, cool. Thanks for the motivation. That's saying we sold the neutral site tickets and 50,000 are already there and these fans are rabid to see the Chiefs versus the Bills. You know what that sounds like to me? Michael Jordan going, I heard about the neutral site and I took that personally. That's what that sounds like to me.
100% right. 100% right. All right, let's take a look at this thing real quick. This is the controversial no touchdown that was called here.
The ball does move.
There's the catch.
He's backpedaling.
But see how he kind of loses the ball as he hits the ground, loses control of it as he hits the ground. So they were saying, well, let's move past that angle because that angle is not going to give us much. It's the front angle that we need to be looking at here. So you see there how the ball, no, it looks like a catch because he's caught it and he's going down. He's got both feet in bounds, but then the ball bounces off the turf and moves. And you see the ball moving around there right above that dude's hat. And doesn't have full possession.
I thought it was still.
So here we go. This is a good angle.
Is it still not football move?
Boom. Yeah, you've got to do the football move and see how the ball bounces off the ground.
Yeah. Well, no. Because here's the thing. I think that they should call that a touchdown. But when you have a direct comparison, this week even. Where CeeDee Lamb, who had apparently just broken his pinky or had severely damaged it, they take that motherfucker up and he took a ball all the way to the ground, landed on said pinky, and that ball did not move.
Yeah.
That's the issue. You have a direct example. I mean, they obviously did not see this because this game happened, the Cowboys game happened after this.
Right.
You know what I mean? If you're making comparisons now about taking stuff to the ground, the rule is you got to hold it. It cannot move.
Yeah. That's the thing. It cannot move. But you could argue the ball never actually, there's no real concrete evidence that the ball touched the ground. It's just that he fumbled the ball as he was falling out of bounds. And because he fumbled the ground with the ball,
what was the initial call?
What was no touchdown call?
And that's the thing. If you don't have the evidence to like the shadow of a doubt, if it's wiggling like that, so then it's kind of like then you have to go with the original calling. And that's the only thing that I sort of agree with is that like, whatever they call on the field, which is why it's so imperative that you get the call you want when they first call it before they go to replay.
Exactly.
Because it has to be shadow of a doubt.
Right.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
So, all right, we'll get into our predictions for what we think the AFC Championship game is going to be in a little bit. Let's take a quick break. We'll jump into our next game right after this. All right, Winston, let's jump into this thing. The next one, we got to go to your Cowboys here. 49ers beat the Cowboys 19-12 in yesterday's NFC Divisional Round game. Brock Purdy kind of broke the game open, if you can say that, for a 19-12 game when he threw a pass to George Kittle late in the third quarter after the play had broken down. He saw Kittle break open. He threw it to Kittle. Kittle bounced it off his hands and off his helmet, maybe a second version of a helmet catch, and then caught that ball just as he was about to get hit by one of the DBs back there for the Cowboys. And that's the thing that led them on a touchdown drive here that was capped off by Christian McCaffrey going ahead with a 2-yard run. The 49ers used back-to-back long scoring drives in the second half to eventually wear down the Cowboys and win their 12th straight game. Dak was 12 of 37 for 206 yards and a touchdown with 2 back-breaking interceptions on Sunday. He had 2 chances to lead the Cowboys back when they were only down by 7 points. But both of those drives yielded nothing, and one embarrassing throw at the end there to try to do some kind of hook and ladder thing that didn't even get off the ground, for God's sake. So you take away, I've got a lot of thoughts. I got a lot of feelings about this one. We saw Brock Purdy get shook. We saw him get shook I think too many people are, I'll be honest with you, too many people are jumping on the Cowboys and wanting to laugh and dance on their graves. This was a back and forth, hard fought, knockdown, drag out battle. And yes, Dak Prescott gave up 2 interceptions, but Brock Purdy was also running for his damn life, was throwing some questionable throws, but was able to get some passes in critical moments on those 2 long touchdown drives, or those 2 long drives for scores rather, that ended up being the difference for this team. So in the end, the 49ers outlasted these Cowboys because their defense is just a monster defense, and they have so many tools that they used effectively throughout the game. Deebo Samuel, Elijah Mitchell, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, and of course, Christian McCaffrey. So too many people want to come after the Cowboys this morning, and I think this was a legitimate loss to a damn good team, even though their quarterback is, the last selection of the draft. They've won 12 straight, and that's no accident. So what do you, as a Cowboys fan, but also as an NFL fan observing this, what are your thoughts coming out of the game for these 2 teams there?
I mean, a number of things. One, you have given the blueprint to the Eagles, to the Chiefs, and to the Bengals on how you beat the 49ers.
Yeah.
It's very simple. They have an insanely good rush defense. That's what it is. We 76 on the ground across everything, though, to be honest with you. The minute we lost Pollard, I thought the game was over. I'll be 1,000% honest, because Elliott's not really that guy anymore. He's not that every down. He's that short yardage. If I'm in a dire situation, Elliott, I need you to get 8 yards for me. He'll get it, but he's not doing that shit all game. That's not a thing anymore. So the minute we lost Pollard, I was like, we're in serious trouble. This game is most likely over. Right. But that being said, our defense held their ground game to barely over 100 yards, and not by any single individual.
Right.
It took a team effort to break it. The average for everyone, the highest was, you could say Usyk, but he had 1 run for 8 yards. So we're going to throw that one out. It was Elijah Mitchell with 3.6 on average. So our defense took away probably their most dangerous element here. Yeah. And the longest, Kittle there with 95 yards, a lot of that has to do with, like you said, that miracle catch that he had.
31.
My guy is actually all the way, and at the last second goes yoink before he gets completely decimated in a tackle and pulls the ball and his body in so he doesn't take the full brunt of that hit. So our defense did what they were supposed to do. You held the Niners to 19 points.
Yeah.
When between their defensive points scored and their offense rolling, they have been a monstrosity. So you have to give credit to the Dallas defense here. Like, see, look, yes, that's insane. And at the last second, sees him come and goes, "Oh God," and tucks it.
Yeah,
because you know what I'm saying. Just put your tongue in your mouth, boy. Put your tongue away. Put it away. So again, the Dallas defense did what I needed them to do. If we're just being 100% honest here, the minute Pollard was gone, man, this is all on deck. It is, and I'm looking at, there were 2 other plays that almost got very horribly picked off.
Yes, he had 2 other interceptions, possibly. Yes,
even though that first interception looked like that wasn't a bobble off of Lamb's hands, Ward jumped in there and knocked it just enough and popped it up into the linebacker's hands. I can't remember his name, but he's their captain.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? So like, that's a situation where that was you were trying to make a window, and it was a bad window to throw into. Yeah. And so this idea of let's just throw Dak out, I don't agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
But my guy needs to go back this offseason, and he needs to figure some shit out. And if it's a situation where you look at him and you genuinely see a possibility where another quarterback could come in and whatever, and you want to trade for it, I mean, a conversation has to be had. But to act like Dak Prescott isn't still above a vast majority of quarterbacks in the league, by a large margin. There are the tops of the top that he's really not touching, but he's better than a vast majority of the rest of the league. So unless you have a really viable option, the more important thing to do is, cool, you've given Dak the tongue lashing for screwing this up, man. Mm-hmm. Let him go back to the drawing board and figure out how to stop these turnovers and come back and hit him harder next time, man, because this is I said this weeks ago. The Niners it is their championship to give away.
Yeah.
They are so well rounded, and the only weak point was to shake Brock Purdy. And to be honest with you, you did.
Yeah.
He pulled out 214, but he didn't throw any touchdowns. And the play that changed the momentum was that Kittle miracle catch.
Yep.
If Kittle drops that, because I believe that's on third down,
It was
you're punting the ball, and now we're back on a roll again. He just happened to, at the last second, pull that shit in.
Yeah.
So we just need to, and do not say Derek Carr for Dak. Fuck that shit. I don't want Derek Carr. Absolutely not. Derek Carr is not better than Dak Prescott. It's not even close. Let's not do this.
Way less productive.
Let's not do this. No.
No, I mean, there's nowhere else they can turn. There really is nowhere else they can turn. They've got to figure this out with Dak. I mean, that's the frustrating thing about Dak, and I think that's why a lot of Cowboy fans get frustrated. They see what he can be, and they're just kind of confused about why it's not happening. But I'll tell you why, just like with Sean McDermott, Mike McCarthy is not the coach for Dak Prescott. He is not the coach for Dak Prescott. It just doesn't work. And look, this was arguably, even though he led them into the playoffs and they had a good record and they looked like world beaters at times throughout the season, this was arguably one of Dak's worst seasons because he had more interceptions this season than he's ever had in any other season, and he missed 5 games. So it's crazy to think that he had 15 interceptions in a season where he missed 5 games, and that's the most he's had in his career. And you look at this, and last week he played so well, but that was a destroyed Tampa Bay team. I give no credit. They did exactly what they were supposed to do. But rolling into this 49ers game, I was really impressed with the back and forth here between both of the teams. Yes, does Dak deserve some blame? Sure. But I think McCarthy is just a shit coach, man. I really do. And I think they've got to find a better coach who can figure out what to do with Dak Prescott. And I said this on our show last year. Dak needs to be calling Bill Belichick right now and figuring out how to get the fuck out of Dallas and go to New England, be under Bill Belichick's tutelage, and you'll see what kind of great quarterback he can be. Shanahan is turning Brock Purdy into a world beater. Mr. Irrelevant. The last pick in the draft is looking like a legitimate fucking quarterback now because of Shanahan. Coaching matters. Blame Dak all you want, but coaching fucking matters.
I'll be honest with you. We're pretty screwed because I'm sure Dan Quinn's getting a job. I'm sure Kellen Moore is probably getting a job. We're going to have to start over with both coordinators, which is going to be fucking awful. And like the other thing that to really look at where this game went, there were a couple of missed opportunities for turnovers that we just did not get. We got one fumble recovery. I'll give you that. But there was an interception that Diggs barely dropped. Yeah. Like it hit him and it's in his hands and he tried one last second and he couldn't get it and that shit hit the ground. And so that also would have been a moment, the momentum behind it, where they were on the field because they were on the Niners side of the field when that interception almost happened on Purdy. Purdy got real lucky that Diggs did not surehand that. But that's the thing. The turnover differential will always typically be how the game goes. And you're talking about 2 interceptions that happened. And thank God the defense kept them to field goals.
You know
what I'm saying? Like that is gonna end up being what's going on. And so I have faith that this team has enough talent that if they figure things out, if they genuinely figure out some proper leadership here, they can make it happen. They're just this ain't it, bro. It's not it. And
they got to figure out what they're going to do with Ezekiel. Because, I mean, they essentially turned Ezekiel into a short down back. And that's kind of crazy to me that that's where he's at now. And you can't pay a guy that many millions of dollars to get you 3 or 4 yards.
Father Time is undefeated. Father Time is undefeated. Even
get him out.
Even the dude that had his ex-wife's like witch powers keeping him relevant and winning championships. The minute her witch powers stopped going, Father Time came to collect that check. They were like, okay, you got a rent moratorium. I'll wait.
You're out of control.
And just Father Time just waited. Oh, the moratorium's gone. Pay up, bitch. What?
Are you saying you're saying that Brazilian supermodel is a witch? Is that what you're saying?
That was the rumor going around, is that she was like Glenda the Good Witch in Wicked / Wizard of Oz, and that she was putting blessings, and not that she put a hex on him because she's a good witch. That was I followed all this on TikTok. It's not that she all of a sudden was like, I'm gonna dabble in dark magic. It was that I am no longer blessing this man, and so with the blessings gone, you saw him it slowly start to deteriorate.
That might
It
be
is
right.
what it
Like
is,
picture of
bro.
Dorian Gray, the picture of Tom Brady. It's probably true. Maybe it's true. Let me throw some stats out there, and I apologize to Winston ahead of time, but the Cowboys are now 27 seasons removed from the last championship, which is Super Bowl 30. Prescott, as I said, tied for the NFL lead interceptions in 2022. Against the Niners, he became the first Cowboys quarterback to have multiple passes intercepted since Troy Aikman in 1998. Let's see here. Mike McCarthy fell to 0-4 in his playoff career versus the 49ers. 2 losses with the Packers and 2 losses with the Cowboys, tying Tom Landry, who had the most losses for head coach against the Rams in a single team in playoff history. Brett Maher, who missed 4 extra points in the Cowboys win against the Buccaneers. It was the most missed extra points by any kicker, but he did get 2 field goals in this game, so he came through there. Here's the crazy stat. The Cowboys have gone one and done 7 times since 1996, and they've lost for the record 7th straight time in the divisional round and have failed to make it to the NFC title game since winning their 5th Super Bowl in 1995. Here are the other teams that have not made a championship game since 1996. The Texans, the Browns, the Lions, the Dolphins, my Commanders, and the Cowboys. That is not good company to be in since 1996. And I say all of this. Oh, by the way, this was Dallas' first playoff loss when allowing fewer than 20 points since 1976. So they had this thing in the wheelhouse of the percentages for them by keeping the Niners under 20, but it still wasn't enough. But I'm going to say all of this. Jerry Jones, for the love of God, get a fucking GM, get your fingers and hands off this fucking franchise, sit in the box, have multiple plastic surgeries during the fucking timeouts or the half times, and lay off this goddamn team. For all you've done for the team and make yourself, you also have choked the life out of this team. You and Dan Snyder are essentially the same fucking person, and how you've decimated both teams and what once were proud names. Because it's worse for the Cowboys to have all the potential to get to these spots and never get there than the Commanders, who have been struggling with shit quarterbacks since Joe Gibbs left the second time.
Yeah.
So to me, that's the difference. And to me, that's where the issue lies, is Jerry Jones doesn't have to sell it. Just sit in the fucking owner's box and start sign the checks and let football people who know about football run your fucking team and find the right people.
Which, to that point, man, there's a couple things to say really quickly. I mean, the first is I agree with you that there needs to be more solid organization and more solid leadership and less spectacle. I understand that you are the part of what makes this so goddamn profitable is the spectacle, that everybody wants to either see them succeed or fail so badly.
Yeah, they do. Yes, yes.
But to Sean, who's out here running his mouth because we know he loves his Chiefs super, super hard here. When I say I have faith that this team can
finally
pull it together,
relevant after 4 decades of irrelevance.
And that's my point. How many times has this team pulled it off? 5 fucking times. We haven't done it in recent years, and I can acknowledge that. And that means that, I can't just rest on my laurels. So again, they need to find the right potent formula to do it. But how many times have your Chiefs done it? Twice. And you blew it against Tom Brady when he was already on his way out from being the Tom Brady we knew and loved. So don't step to me. Win this Super Bowl, and then you want to talk smack for the next 6 months, you're allowed to. Right. You are so allowed to. But when Joe Burrow gets in that ass, ooh, bitch, I'm going to rub it in your face so goddamn hard.
Well, and speaking of which, just a quick reminder here, ladies and gentlemen, the Streamlabs are open, so send in your Streamlabs. I pinned it in the chat. Send in some love here for the channel, for the show. You're enjoying us talking sports. It's fun to have a little bit of support here as we're building this channel. So send in your questions, thoughts, and comments through the Streamlabs that is pinned there in the chat. Let's move on to these Chiefs as we're just about to talk, as we're talking about them right now. Patrick Mahomes shook off a bad ankle injury in the first quarter to finish with a whopping 195 yards passing and 2 touchdowns. The second capping a 75-yard drive late in the fourth quarter when it looked like these Jags were maybe going to pull off this upset in Kansas City, but Mahomes did enough to lift them to a 27-20 victory over the Jaguars. Mahomes went out. You saw him on the sideline. He was pissed, threw his coat down. He tried to beg Andy Reid, let him back into the game. Andy Reid was like, no, go down there and get checked out. Get your leg checked out, your ankle checked out, while I put a mustache on your face with black marker. But Chad Henne came in and led a 98-yard touchdown drive while Mahomes was out. That deserves some credit as well. Travis Kelce, 14 catches for 98 yards. That's a career high in terms of catches. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who hasn't always showed up, hauled in the eventual clinching touchdown pass with about 7 minutes to go. But the Jaguars had this thing, man. They were coming back a couple of times. They had the ball on the 5-yard line on the Chiefs, and then Jamal Agnew fumbled the ball. And then later, Jalen Watson made a leaping one-handed interception near midfield to stop Trevor Lawrence, who had finished with 217 yards and a touchdown pass to Christian Kirk. So the Jags gave them all that they could handle there in Kansas City. And if they hadn't fumbled that ball, I had a feeling they were going to go in and score that touchdown and really put the pressure on Kansas City. Doesn't mean they would have won. They would have won. I'm just really impressed with how the Jaguars came in and weren't 100% scared. But you could tell Trevor Lawrence ain't quite 100% playoff quarterback there yet. I think he's going to get there. This is going to be a great experience for him. But you could tell there were some passes and throws that he shouldn't have been throwing, that he was still kind of figuring out. And I can't wait to see what he does next year. That being said, all credit to the Chiefs, and especially Patrick Mahomes, who gutted out this victory on that ankle. And we find out later it was a high ankle sprain. So what do you take away from this game here about the Chiefs or the Jags here, Winston? What stands out to you from this? What are you feeling?
The nonsense that they tried to sell the lie to us that Tony Pollard also had a high ankle sprain, bro. That was clearly a shattered leg, and it's been reported now that he did break his.
He broke his leg. Tony Pollard broke his leg. Yes.
That we all saw it. The way my guy was crawling, the fact that we saw a 275-pound man put his entire weight on a crack like that was broken. Now, with Patrick here, this is what is so interesting. There's a reason why he's about to be the MVP. There's a reason why the Bengals do not get to walk into the Super Bowl. They have to earn it.
Yes.
Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league. I believe that without 100%. A shadow of a doubt. Better than Josh 100%. Allen, better than Aaron Rodgers, better than clearly Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts. He is the best quarterback in the league, period, bar none.
Yeah.
That being said, the Chiefs are clearly not invincible, and the Jaguars showed you, again, that blueprint because, A, the Jaguars are deadlier than people realize, and they showed that when they decided to run it back on the Chargers in an entire half. This is where I was sad we couldn't find the time to do the show last week, because I was out of town and whatnot, because I was sitting there watching that game. We had just finished whatever stuff from the dodgeball tournament I was at, and my homies were like, we're going to take a nap. This game is over. 27-0. That's a wrap. And I was like, I'm going to stay up and keep watching this. And I'm sitting here like, what the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? Like, and they woke up, and I was like, the Jags, when they go, what? How? So, like, the Jaguars need to have some respect put on them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But all that being said, there is a reason why Kansas City will always be in the conversation. They will always be a threat to win it all because Patrick Mahomes, even with an injury, is a monster. And when you have someone like Kelce, who is, in my opinion, we're starting to look at Kelce as potentially better than Gronk at his peak. From some of the things he's doing. Because Gronk was doing some unreal shit. But I'm starting to get to that point now where I got to look at their numbers overall. But I think Kelce might have Gronk on that at this point. What I get worried about for the Chiefs, I know obviously you started spreading the ball a little more and kind of figuring stuff out. I worry if you have the longevity with your receiving core to continue to do this because the Hill-Kelce tandem was terrifying. Mm-hmm. And you still have receivers doing their jobs here, but we'll see what happens. So either way, I think you got to see once again why Andy Reid, why these Chiefs, why Patrick Mahomes are a consistent deadly threat. Yeah. They are a consistent threat. They are not always the top threat, but they are always within that top 4 conversation, always. That is where Sean loves to think we have some sort of blood feud, mainly you. Yeah, man, but he loves to think that we both have some sort of blood feud. I have always said this, that the Chiefs are the team to beat because they can stay consistent like this. Right. I just think that there are other teams at points that are doing better than them. That does not mean that you write them off. I just think that there are other teams that are doing slightly better. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, I look at it this way. I mean, I think it was, Mahomes deserves all kinds of credit for what he did. Certainly. And so does Andy Reid. And this is what I tell you, that's the difference. The coaching is so important. I'm on this in this particular episode because coaching is so important in the playoffs, more so than in any other time. It is in the playoffs where coaching really comes through, and you see the difference here. Doug Peterson had Trevor Lawrence prepared. He had the Jaguars prepared for that game against the Chiefs. The difference between Trevor Lawrence last year under Urban Meyer and this year under Doug Peterson isn't like they picked up a bunch of awesome new players. No, it's good coaching. It's somebody who understands how to coach a professional football team, an adult professional football team. That's what Doug Peterson can do. He's not in bars groping young blonde women. He's out there figuring shit out and how to put his team in the best position. And they came in there, gave the Chiefs all they could handle. Andy Reid understood that he had a limited quarterback. He had a quarterback that was not going to leave that game, that he was going to have to shoot him in the leg to keep him from going back in the game. So he adjusted the game plan with Bieniemy, and they sat there and said, okay, we're not going to let him leave the pocket. We're going to throw we're going to figure this all out with some dump offs and some quick passes to the out, and we're going to keep this going. And so they adjusted, and that's what good coaching does, make adjustments. Like we were saying about McCarthy, who was incompetent of doing that. You see Andy Reid doing that. He saved his quarterback. Is it going to be all for naught? We don't know. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But at the end of the day,
depends on how
Chiefs
healthy,
deserve all kinds of credit for taking care of business.
Yeah. And I have to give Andy Reid so much credit. Tell an angry Patrick Mahomes to go sit his little ass down, because what Andy Reid did, and the same thing that I can't remember what other coach did this recently that I was really proud of them for doing that.
Yeah.
Instead of looking at it, I have to win now, you're like, I am not about to RG3 you right now.
Right.
I am not going to use you as a disposable commodity, because I'm aware of what you mean to this team and the legacy of this team. We're not going to lose this shit for that. And on top of that, knowing and being smart enough and feeling confident enough in your backup that you have prepped him for this moment, and he will do what he needs to do. And what did Chad Henne do? 95 yards on them mother suckers and got them kept them rolling.
Yeah.
That is what your backup is supposed to do. And it was a beautiful thing to watch. I loved watching. I was nervous, but I loved watching Henne come in there as a vet, keeping his cool, keeping it rolling until we were sure that Patrick could get back in there and be okay. Yeah. That is exactly how you're supposed to do that.
You know what's crazy? His first game was Chad Pennington sitting in for Vinny Testaverde. That's how old Chad Henne is, for God's sakes. That's how long he's been in the damn league. Both those guys have been retired since 2010. That's how long Chad Henne's been in the damn league. And this is the second time he's come through in the playoffs. Remember a couple of years ago when he got that 3rd and 14 against the Browns. So shout out to Chad Henne for doing what needs to be done as a backup, coming in and spelling Mahomes and leading them on that long-ass drive to get that touchdown. And look, they won by a touchdown. So it could have been the difference with all things being square. Chad Henne going in and saving their butts when Mahomes went down. And you're right. That's what a good coach does. Go take your star player, go get him checked out. Do not put him back in the game, Mike McDaniel, and let him get another fucking concussion. You don't put him back in the game, Mike Shanahan, and let him ruin his entire career. That's why I like that Harbaugh didn't get Lamar Jackson onto the field. There was opportunities for him to play against those Bengals, but in the end, he didn't put him on the field. Even though
I thought that was Jackson that said, "I'm not doing this."
Lamar Jackson, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
No, but I'm saying it wasn't Harbaugh. It was Jackson going, "Bitch, y'all should have paid me." And he said, and I don't
probably true.
I do not blame him because. And he even tweeted something very cryptic. And he was like, when you have something good, you don't abuse it. You don't ignore it. You take care of it. And I don't know if that's a little dig. You know what I'm talking about? If you want to go trade Dak Prescott for Lamar Jackson, you know my black ass is fucking here for it. Now, that's a situation because the Ravens need to be very careful. They need to be very careful. That is a generational talent. You're talking about the same way that when Cam Newton was at his peak, it was like, holy shit, pay this man. Pay him, because the reason that they're in this game, of course people want to win. Of course people want the chips. They want to be in the Hall of Fame. They want to be remembered forever. But they are putting their bodies on the line for this to get paid as well. The man deserves every single penny. And if you're not going to do it, I bet you there's somebody else that would.
That being said, I would have, if I was Harbaugh, I would have brought Lamar in for that 1 yard sneak into the end zone, because he would not have gotten the ball.
Wasn't he not suited up anyway?
He was suited up. He was sitting on the sideline suited up.
I'm not doing that. And to be honest with you, I would not be surprised if Lamar said, "I'm not doing that."
Yeah. He pulled Scottie Pippen. I'm not going in the game.
But more so than Scotty back then, Lamar has a legitimate reason here.
Oh, of course.
He had. If I was Lamar Jackson, I would not play another snap for the Ravens until they paid me.
Right.
I wouldn't do it because this game, we have seen it. We had a perfect example of it a couple of weeks ago, man.
Yeah, it's true.
At any point, this game could be worse than I messed up my knee or I got a concussion. It could be a wrap. So if you're not going to pay me for my services, especially when I'm at the elite top of the game level, then you're not getting my services. No free work. That's my motto in 2023. Fuck a free work. You're going to pay me what's owed, bro.
Taking a shot here. All right. And if
you pay me. We can what are we talking about?
But I owe my man a payment here. Most consecutive conference championship appearances by a QB head coach. That's what we've got here with the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, they're going to 5. This is their 5th one in a row. The Patriots, Tom Brady and Bill Belichick went to 8 in a row. The Raiders, Ken Stabler and John Madden went to 5. So Mahomes and Reid, great combination here, going to their 5th one. Now, that being said, and here comes the blood feud talk. If the Chiefs lose again in another AFC championship game, if the Chiefs do not make it to this Super Bowl, we are seeing the window slowly closing for these Chiefs. I'll tell you that right now. And if you only have one Super Bowl out of victory out of 5 AFC championship games,
then
you're
looking
only
at the Aaron
one
Rodgers
Super Bowl
situation.
above the Buffalo Bills, who went to 4 straight. You're only one Super Bowl above the Buffalo Bills, who went to 4 straight and lost. But so to me, in my mind, I have questions about how we properly assess these Kansas City Chiefs if they don't get to the Super Bowl, if they don't win the Super Bowl one more time.
There's a couple of things to keep in mind here, though. I mean, yes, you were running the risk of pulling an Aaron Rodgers here, where you feel like you got the only difference is at least you made it to another Super Bowl. And if I remember again, you're also one drive away from beating Tom Brady there.
Yes.
It didn't work out at the end. Right. So you're already still, in my opinion, a step ahead of Aaron Rodgers because you made it to the big game again. So there is something to be said about that. But yes, you'll have to talk about the legacy a little bit, but I don't necessarily write them off on that. You do look at it and go, damn, dude, I really wish you could have gotten it done again.
Yeah.
But I think what that speaks more to is how lethal some of this competition is, how good the Bengals are, for example. Who beat them the year before the Bengals?
What do you mean in the
AFC Championship, or was that the year that they went and lost that Brady? No, it wouldn't have been Brady because that was in the Super Bowl.
Let's see. Who did they beat? Who beat them?
So last year was the Bengals beat them. Who beat them the year before that? Who went to the Super Bowl the year before the Bengals from the AFC?
Wasn't that the Chiefs when they were losing to the
Is that when they lost to the Bucks?
Yeah.
Okay. And then the year before that, they went to the Super Bowl yet again, and they won that one against the 49ers.
49ers, yes.
And so then the year before that, who did they lose to?
I'm looking up right now because I forget as well. They lost they beat the 49ers. They lost to the Patriots in 2019 in the conference championship game.
Okay.
Then before that, they lost to the Titans and to the Steelers in 2016. And in 2015, they lost to the New England Patriots again. So
So there you go. So they lost to the Bengals. They beat the Bills.
Yes.
They beat the Titans. And then they lost to the Patriots. Okay, so then when they beat the Titans is when they beat the 49ers.
Yes.
When they beat the Bills is when they lost to the Bucks.
Yes.
So no, I'm at that point again. That would mean you're 2-3 if they lose this. I mean, right now you're 2-2. You're 2-2 in AFC Championship.
2-2 in AFC
shooting 50% at a championship level is a really good record. If they were like 1-3, about to go 1-4, we're having a different conversation. Okay. So if they go 1 under 500 after this, I still give them credit. They're still doing just fine. But when you have the talent that you're talking about with Patrick Mahomes and now we're putting him on this pedestal like this, the one difference here is if you want to start comparing him more to Tom Brady instead of like Aaron Rodgers or Peyton Manning, Tom Brady continued to figure it out and to win. Granted, you had the coaching staff and the team around you, but you could make that argument that Patrick Mahomes does as well. You have your Gronk in Kelsey. You have your Belichick and Andy Reid. Yeah. So there is a level of like, I need you to finish.
Yeah.
But I just think, to be honest with you, that this is the first real yes, the Bills were very, very good, and the Titans were good too. But remember, the Titans felt suspect that they were just Derrick Henry there.
Yeah.
10 and then the Bills
in the Super Bowl. Yeah.
And then the Bills just weren't ready. This is the most ready the Bills have felt is this year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's timing. Who knew that the Bengals would get this good this fast?
That's true.
That's what's crazy.
That should scare the shit out of every Chiefs fan for sure. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, this is the thing that I come back to is 2-2, and then we'll see what happens next week. And I see Sean going, well, we lost to Tom Brady. It was Tom Brady. Well, then does Josh Allen get that excuse every time he loses to Patrick Mahomes? Does Josh Allen get to say, well, I lost to Patrick Mahomes, who's the best quarterback in the NFL, so therefore my losses aren't as bad as you think. So you've got to – it's a sliding scale of perspective and context, I think, when you're dealing with sports fandom. And to me, the Chiefs are too good, and everyone in Chiefs Kingdom tells me how great they are, to only have one Super Bowl victory so far from these 4 AFC championship games. If they do a 5th one and they lose it, then one Super Bowl out of 5 AFC championship games. That's not good. That's not good.
Bro, I just realized, and the time that the time that the Patriots won their last Super Bowl, when they beat the Chiefs, and they barely beat the Chiefs, and that was a situation where Kansas City, in my opinion, just wasn't ready. They were good, but they weren't ready yet. They were good enough that they could have done it, because anybody playing that Rams team, because that Rams team was fucking sorry, and in my opinion had no business being in the Super Bowl because of the greatest no call maybe in all of NFL history. People will make different arguments.
The Saints game,
rule,
right?
Remember? And then they came in there and they karma's a bitch, and they only scored a field goal in that game. That is the best that they could pull out. So like, there's a lot going on here, man. But I think that none of the greatness is taken away from the Kansas City Chiefs and what they've done. I think people forget because we've had a Tom Brady, because we've had a Kobe Bryant, because we've had Steph Curry, because we've had a Michael Jordan. Watch some of the greatest to ever do it when multiples on multiples on multiples, like it's hard. You know what I'm like? It's hard. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's really fucking hard.
Yeah, but I see Chiefs fans shitting on the Bills for getting the Super Bowl 4 times and not winning it. And I'm just like, look, you gotta, getting to the Super Bowl 4 times in a row is not easy. So it is difficult to do. And yes, they lost all of them. But you've only won one extra one than the Bills have, and they actually got there 4 straight times. You haven't even gotten there more than twice and with this current iteration of the Chiefs. So I just have a sense. It's not a blood feud. I'm just trying to be proper in my assessment of the Kansas City Chiefs. All right, let's take a quick break. Hey, guys, if you sent in any Streamlabs, unfortunately, Streamlabs right now is a little weird. It's not showing me what you guys
said. A lot of people said that they had. I saw some people go, I did send a question in. So
can you guys resend it? Because for whatever reason, it is not coming through here. And I've refreshed the page, but I think it's having to do with, because I've gone to both Safari and Google Chrome, and it is not happening. So just send your put
Sean.
It in the chat. So
Sean, so many people are out here shitting on the Bills for their 4 Super Bowl appearances. Like, that's the thing. At the very least, it is something to be said. They took it a step further and made it to the actual big game than the semifinals. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's something to be said about that.
Yeah, but a lot of people saying that stuff. So anyway, that's why they did a whole documentary on the Bills on 30 for 30.
I'll tell you this.
Yeah.
Regardless,
we have 25 minutes left. So,
I know it's going to be real quick because I know we got to get to these predictions and stuff. Regardless of who wins the AFC championship game, that is the team that I am pulling for. Fuck both of these NFC teams coming through. I don't want neither of these bitches to get a ring. I will be so happy if there's a Bengals ring, or so happy if the Chiefs get a ring. I am ready. My body is ready.
There we go. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll jump into our last game, our predictions, and then some breaking news that just happened in the NBA as well right after this. All right, let's jump into this last game. Here's the Eagles taking care of business. Jalen Hurts threw 2 touchdown passes, ran for a score during a dominant first half, and they overwhelmed the paper champion New York Giants 38-7 on Saturday. The Philadelphia's offensive line had big holes for Miles Sanders and Kenneth Gainwell. They finished with 268 yards on the ground. What were the Giants doing in the playoffs? Anyway, Hurts finished 16-24 for 154 yards. His shoulder was fine. He threw a beautiful 40-yard pass to Devontae Smith, and he was flawless on that first drive, completing passes of 9 yards, 5 yards, and a 16-yard touchdown pass to Dallas Goedert, who was fantastic. Then he had completions of 12, 9, and a 9-yard touchdown pass in the second drive. He was 7 of 7 for 89 yards in the first quarter. New York turned the ball over on downs on his first possession. Then Daniel Jones does what Daniel Jones did, what Daniel Jones does, throw interceptions, and he threw it to James Bradbury there. And Boston Scott scored his 11th touchdown against the Giants to give them a 21-0 lead. He has 19 touchdowns in his career. 11 of them are against the Giants. And when Giants defensive coordinator Wink Martindale, no, not the host of game shows, the defensive coordinator Wink Martindale, was asked about Boston Scott being a, quote, giant killer, he said he was nothing close to being a giant killer. And Boston Scott took that personally and scored another touchdown against the Giants here. I mean, they just absolutely mollywopped the Giants from pillar to post here. I don't think there's much to take away from the Giants. The Jaguars at least put up a good fight against the Chiefs. The Giants look completely overmatched and got exposed by these Eagles. What do you take away from this game? Do you have more faith in these Eagles? Because, two of those losses were when Jalen Hurts wasn't even playing, and they adjusted the game plan in that last game so that he could get into the number 1 seed here for the Eagles. How do you feel about the Eagles coming out of this game, I guess is what I'm saying.
I mean, they're back to form. There was concern that Hurts might have a little bit of rust, and he looked just like he always did, which is impressive as shit. And in my opinion, probably the front runner for MVP until the injury.
Yeah.
But if you ever needed proof that he genuinely was the reason the Eagles were so successful and he had made that transformation into an elite level, the proof was in the pudding when he disappeared. Period.
Yeah.
I think that there's nothing to write home about. It's the Giants. Like, yes, they were good enough to get into the playoffs, but there was a major cliff droppage for NFC teams. The only team that I could have seen that maybe deserved their spot more than them, but they didn't get it together fast enough is the Lions, because the Lions were playing ridiculously.
This would have been a whole other NFC playoff situation if the Lions had gotten in.
If the 100%. Lions had gotten in there, they would have taken, I guess, the Giants spot potentially.
Yes, so I think they would have killed the Vikings.
They would have crushed the Vikings as well. And I think that they could have maybe won this game. I still think the Eagles would have had the edge with Hurts, but they could have actually put up a legitimate fight. I just don't think that the Giants are good. They weren't good. It's just that, like, our division was better than everybody else.
Yeah.
Let's just be 100% honest. Our division was better than everybody else.
Yeah.
Remember the Lions, even the Commanders. You guys were handling business for a while.
We almost had it.
You had no quarterback. You had no quarterback. And Chase Young, did he ever play this year at all?
Yeah, in the last couple of games he played, but it wasn't.
And you got homie back, but, like, you don't have a quarterback. The minute you figure out a quarterback, dude, you guys are going to start rolling. I don't like it, but you will. You've got the talent. It's there. Yeah. You need someone to lead the team.
Dak Prescott.
Oh, they would have taken the Seahawks spot. They would have taken the Seahawks spot. That's right, the Seahawks. And if that's the case, then I take back what I said. The Lions got their asses whooped by the Niners, man. Let's be real. But anyway.
So you take the Giants certainly can feel proud. Brian Daboll did a nice job coaching that team, considering how terrible they were last year, getting them into a playoff spot. They beat the Vikings. I mean, everybody should be taking a look at themselves on that Minnesota Vikings team after losing to these Giants at home in Minnesota, considering how terrible they played in this game against the Eagles. You could have easily beaten these Giants. They clearly overlooked them or weren't prepping for them seriously, and that showed last week. And now the Giants got shown for exactly how good of a team they are, what level they are, because the Eagles killed them 38-7. And I'm looking forward to this. So let's jump into these predictions here. Let's give the Patrick Mahomes update just real quick. He suffered a high ankle sprain. The nature of the injury here is it showed no other damage on the MRI, and he injured this same ankle in week 1 of 2019 in the same way, and then came back, didn't miss any time. He threw 7 touchdowns and averaged 409 passing yards over those 2 games when he came back after that. Here's the thing with the high ankle sprain. It's an injury to the tibiofibular ligaments, and that join the two lower leg bones, the tibia and the fibula. So you can get injured with this and get surgery. Mac Jones was hurt by this high ankle sprain earlier in the year, and he came back, but he struggled. Jalen Hurts had this high ankle sprain last year, and he had surgery in the off season and then came back, of course, and looked good. And Garoppolo got this injury in 2020, missed 2 weeks, and then returned only to aggravate it and miss the remainder of the next season. So we will see what happens with this high ankle sprain and what treatment it does. Mahomes is committed to starting. Andy Reid says all the indications are positive that he's going to be able to recover in time for the game on Sunday. So we shall see if that's going to be enough to get the job done, or if they have to like adjust the game plan to play Mahomes in a certain way and call pass plays in a certain way to keep him in the pocket. We shall see, but it can be done. Mahomes is one of the most adaptable chameleon-like quarterbacks in the NFL. So I wouldn't be surprised if they can dial up a whole new game plan and put it in place by Sunday. What do you think of this?
I think that Chad Henne, there's a reason why he's a backup. And I think there's a situation when now you're dealing at a championship level type situation. Yeah. If it comes down to that, he has to take over. I think that it's the Bengals game to lose at that point. Yeah. But I also think that if Mahomes can't do Mahomesian things, you saw how close it was when Mahomes could do Mahomesian things.
Yeah, right.
The last 4 times they've played, and the Bengals have beaten them every time, both postseason and regular. The hell you think is going to happen when he's not mobile and he can't make his miracle plays to keep them in it? He's going to have to somehow, the sprain isn't as bad as they think, or they're going to have to shoot him up with them ligament steroids or whatever. Yeah, because otherwise, I just think the Chiefs they're in serious trouble. This is not good.
And let's jump into that real quick. Now let's jump into our predictions here, because I think you've got two teams in these Bengals and Chiefs that are going to be very interesting, because the Bengals are trying to be those junkyard dogs. You know, they're trying to come in there like the Detroit Pistons, the bad boys. They're not giving two shits about whatever you got going on. They're coming in to destroy you and move on to the next person. They were smoking cigars after the game against the Bills, talking all their shit, and they're feeling themselves for sure. But the Chiefs have lost 3 straight to these Bengals, including last year's AFC Championship game when they were up by 18, including earlier this season. Mahomes is 1-3 against the Bengals career, and 3 of those losses are the most recent games against the Cincinnati Bengals. So you go into Kansas City, now you've got motivation here, Kansas City does, and these teams hate each other. Like, they hate each other. So I think this is going to be a brutal matchup between both of these teams. We're going to see a lot of late hits. We're going to see jawing on the sidelines. We're going to see people dragging their nuts on top of the helmet of the other guy. You know how they do that kind of shit. We're going to see all that throughout this game. And in the end, I think it's going to come down to, is Mahomes going to be rattled or is Burrow going to be rattled? I've seen Mahomes get rattled. I've yet to see Burrow get rattled. So in my mind, I take these Bengals by 3 points at the end of the game. I think they're going to get the job done. I trust that Bengals defense more than the Chiefs defense, and I think they've got a lot of weapons that they can put in place. And I'm not sold on the Chiefs running game either, and I think the Bengals have it with their great receivers and their great running backs, along with a stout defensive line. And maybe that O-line will make some adjustments, and the Chiefs can take advantage of that. But we've seen Burrow, as he did in this game against the Bills, get that ball out of there in 2.5 seconds consistently, and that could be the key to them destroying or beating the Chiefs here in Kansas City. What do you think is going to happen in this game?
I think the again, they were they weren't able to beat them with a 100% Patrick Mahomes. So I just don't. This would be the stuff of legends. If Mahomes is playing essentially with one leg and wins this game. That's how I feel right now. If he does that, I think you put a whole different type of respect on his name, where all of a sudden you're like, because he's already a first ballot Hall of Famer. Let's be honest. He's the resume is already complete that he's
only 27 for fun.
And he's 27. He just threw an over 5,000 yard game or season, and that's only happened I want to say 1 or 2 other times in NFL history, I believe. So like, he's already in an elite echelon, a first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback type shit that like, and trick plays that make no sense that he's able to pull them off. So let's give him that credit. But when you are literally just talking about a situation where a team just has your fucking number, bro, like this is just, it was sadly, as a Mavericks fan, it was like watching the Spurs year in and year out get the better of us, and we're right there, but we just couldn't do it. And that's what this is starting to feel like, as the Bengals just genuinely is the kryptonite to the Chiefs. So I got the Bengals winning this by 2 scores. We'll say 10 points. So why don't we go with I'm going to say 23-13.
Bengals
23-13.
You think they're going to hold the Chiefs to 13 points? Wow. All right.
No, you know what? You're right. You make a solid point.
Yeah.
No. 20-30. It'll be 20-30.
So 30-20, the Bengals.
30 Bengals, 20 Chiefs. Again, Mahomes has to be 100%. I do not have faith if Mahomes is not 100%. And even when he's 100%, I still favor the Bengals like 51-49.
Yeah. This is going to be very interesting because the Bengals, this is going to be, for all that shit they've been talking, all that swagger they're throwing in, you got to show up. You could show up against the Bills in the snow. That's great because you were mad about the way the NFL kind of screwed you over on the flip and all of that kind of shit. Great. You had motivation, took care of business, you knocked the Bills out. Here come the Chiefs. Can you do it again? Can you swagger into Kansas City, be unaffected by the crowd, and get the job done? Because you're going to have some adversity. The Chiefs are going to put you in to some adverse situations. Are you going to be able to get the job done? So I'm looking forward to seeing this game. I will be doing, the live watch along of both of these games on the channel on Sunday. So I'm looking forward to doing that for sure. And let's move on to the other game here. The 49ers visiting the Philadelphia Eagles here. This one is very interesting. Again, you've got two teams with a lot of weapons, two teams with strong defenses, but you got to give the slight edge to both the weapons-wise and defense-wise to the 49ers, with the edge going to the Eagles for Jalen Hurts over Brock Purdy. And coaching-wise, I think both Sirianni and Shanahan are good damn coaches who understand how to game plan and make adjustments during the game. So what do you think is going to happen in this one, Winston?
I think this one's hard. But I genuinely think that the Niners will probably pull this one out.
Okay.
And I think the reason why is you've got the experience there. Mm-hmm. You've got the harder hitting defense there. A lot of what makes they showed the stat that the Niners defense was first in rushing, but like 20 something in passing. And it's not that Hurts isn't a good passer. He clearly is a very good passer, but what makes him dangerous is them legs. So if they're that good at stopping the rush like that, you know what I'm saying? Then you can kind of put a kibosh on some of the stuff that he wants to do. And that run game type situation, I think Hurts will get his points. But I just genuinely think unless the Eagles were able to pick up what we were putting down and their defense was really stronger in the secondary than it was the rush, unless they can pick up what we were putting down and get to Brock Purdy and rattle his cage, I just think the Niners already have the championship pedigree. And it's the same thing I said. It was their championship to lose at this point. They are that balanced. They are that deadly. They are that good. They can be held. You just saw our defense do it. It's really coming down to a strong defensive effort to balance their defense. And if there was any defense left in this playoffs to do that, it is definitely the Eagles. But I just truly believe the Niners have the edge. I think this is a one-score game. I think it is 20-17.
Wow. 20-17, the Niners.
For the Niners. The only way you beat the Niners is you have to keep them from scoring. And so I think it's a 20-17 game.
Okay. I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to go the Eagles. I have a feeling, and I agree with Winston. I think the 49ers have been the most well-rounded team all season. They've been incredible. I'm sorry, the last 12 games, I guess you could say, with Brock Purdy taking over. They've been able to step up to the plate. They've been able to come back on teams. They've been able to handle teams. But this Eagles team feels like it's being forgotten by a lot of people in the NFL. And a lot of these analysts that are focused on the Bengals or the Chiefs or the 49ers No one's talking about Philadelphia. And there's nothing sports athletes love than when they're not talking about you because it's disrespectful. You get that chip on his shoulder. We saw the Bengals feeling that way about in the Bills game, and we see them. They will be favored against the Eagles if the Bengals make it and the Eagles make it in the Super Bowl. So I have a feeling the Eagles are carrying that chip, and they're going to come out here and try to punch the 49ers in the mouth from the beginning. And I think the Cowboys gave them the game plan, as you mentioned earlier, gave them the game plan on how to rattle Brock Purdy. And they have more sacks than any other team in the NFL. And they have 4 players who have sacks here, 10-plus sacks. That's incredible to think about. So I think they've got an incredible D-line that is going to give the 49ers all that they can handle. And they can get in that backfield and rattle all those pitches and end arounds and dump offs and all that kind of shit and swallow up Christian McCaffrey whole. Then I think the 49ers aren't going to get the job done here against these Eagles, and Brock Purdy is going to look pedestrian. I think it's going to be a tight game, but I do think the Eagles pull it out at home in Philly. Those are my thoughts.
All right. I mean, again, I just hope that both teams get there and they go, you know what? We don't even want it. And they both just forfeit. And then it's just whoever wins the AFC championship game is the new champion. I want both of these teams to fail. I want them to fail so hard. Like, there's nothing I want more in my life than the Niners and the Eagles to just decide we don't want to play football anymore and to just quit. Nothing. Because either one wins, I lose. I just want them both to fail.
The crazy part of this is if the 49ers and the Bengals make it, the Bengals could lose to the 49ers for the 3rd time in a Super Bowl, and that's never happened in the history of Super Bowls, that one team has lost to another team 3 times in the big game. That is, the Bills lost the Cowboys twice. The Steelers beat the Cowboys twice. In this situation here, the Bengals have lost to the 49ers under Bill Walsh twice, when Forrest Gregg was the coach and when Sam Weish was the coach. And now they possibly may be going into a Super Bowl here against these same 49ers to possibly lose for a 3rd time. So crazy stuff indeed. All right, real quick thoughts on this breaking news here. The Wizards are finalizing a trade. This is from FanDuel. Thanks to Ed who sent this along, to send Rui Hachimura to the Lakers for Kendrick Nunn and multiple 2nd-round picks. Does Hachimura get the job done for the Lakers? And what is it about my team, the Wizards, that they have this pipeline with trades for the Lakers, sending them Westbrook, getting Kuzma? What does Hachimura even move the dial for these Lakers at this point?
I don't know. I that's hard to say because the Lakers got a little bit of steam in there because LeBron was like fine and went Thanos on these suckers.
Yeah.
But like it hasn't been enough to just like propel them. You know what I'm saying? Like he needs help. He needs Anthony Davis to be healthy. He needs Russell Westbrook to be like MVP Russell Westbrook. Yeah. Like they're still sitting at, what is that? 11, 12? They're at 12th. You know what I'm saying? They're not that far behind. They're only, it looks like 2 games behind. 8th, because of how tightly contested the West is. So anything could happen, but I just, they need to really start feeling themselves like hard. Because the teams you have to get through are the Warriors, the Jazz, and then you're in contention with the Suns and the Timberwolves. And all 4 of those teams are still very good. The records don't necessarily talk about how solid they are. The Jazz, maybe you could pull out of that. I know they're in 9th right now, but I think losing Donovan Mitchell is clearly, I mean, that clearly showed to be the last thing that Cleveland needed to like really be a massive threat. But I don't know, dude. I hope so, because I think honestly, in the same way that the Cowboys doing well is a good thing for football, the Lakers doing well is a good thing for basketball, because the people that love them, and the people that hate them hate them. True. And them being in the picture, it's a hate watch for a lot of people. And so, and then a lot of people feel the same way about the Celtics. It's a hate watch. You need a reason to be jacked in. So it's always good for basketball when the Lakers are doing well.
I like the idea. I like this. It's good for the Wizards because Hachimura, it's good for him to go off and be on a better team. We get 3 second-round picks. So what can we do with that? Kyle Kuzma is going to stick around, it seems like. So him and Bradley Beal could be a nice foundation. What are you going to do with those second-round picks? We're in a rebuild situation now, clearly. So what can you do with all of that? So hopefully we can find some diamonds in the rough in the second round and kind of saddle or get this team some better talent to do a better job overall as an organization going forward. With the Lakers, you're right. This gives them another scoring option, possibly off the bench there. Hachimura with AD and LeBron gives them some size, some strength, and the kid's young. And remember, Russell Westbrook played for the Wizards and kind of got the best out of Hachimura when he was there. So maybe Russell being there in the Lakers as well kind of helps Hachimura acclimate even more quickly to the situation that's going on there. And that's a good thing overall.
So, if he can come and bring in that 13 points a game and 4.3 rebounds, I think that is going to be very helpful because, again, we were expecting Anthony Davis to be actually playing.
You know
what I mean? And not be so if he can get in there and he can at least provide those numbers, maybe some better numbers than that.
Yeah.
Great. But I think that's the whole thing. He's got to bring something.
Right. And the final thing, we're Premier League guys, your Arsenal, what a phenomenal win against Manchester United, 3-2, getting it done right at the end there. It was a beautiful goal. But Everton has fired their manager, Frank Lampard, after he has lost, I think it was 12 straight games without a point here. Lampard, a renowned Chelsea midfielder who had been in charge of Chelsea before he was fired there as well, let go yet again here from Everton. Everton, 2 points from the bottom, and they're down there in the relegation zone. So any thoughts on that real quick before we wrap up?
I mean, I'm proud of us for literally pulling it out in the final minute, bro. Like right before we got into stoppage time. Like, True. Jesus. I was watching a majority of that game. I watched through halftime, and then I had to switch off because I had some business to take care of. But we needed that. We needed that badly because everyone is just chomping at our heels where we had that massive league. It's been shrinking and shrinking and shrinking.
That's
so
5
God,
points.
We needed those fucking points.
Yeah.
So, we got to pull to the end. I am praying that we can pull to the end because it's so goddamn stressful.
Welcome to the game. Welcome to the game, man.
When everybody is aiming at your shit, you sitting on the throne and everybody's taking pop shots. Lord, especially that early goal that Man U got. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? But Saka the man, bro. He out here to get that quick pass with the header in.
Beautiful.
Oh, Lord. What a game. What a game.
Yeah, and you guys have Manchester City on February 15th in the league. You've got them coming up here on this Friday in the FA Cup. That, of course, doesn't affect the overall Premier League, but you've got them on February 15th. So that's going to be a game to watch. I'm definitely going to watch that game from beginning to end to see two fantastic teams and see if Arsenal increases their lead or if Manchester City cuts into them. Because let me tell you something. I know what it's like to fucking battle Manchester City for a Premier League title. So it sucks. There you go. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, Lampard, no surprise in the firing. He wasn't doing well. He's not a good top level coach. He should go down and coach in the Championship or in the or League One. I mean, he just is not a good coach. So he needs to be going down to the lower levels to apply his trade, just like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer all the way down there. Gerrard probably too. We shall see in the long run. All right, there you go. Thanks, everybody, for joining us here on the Game Time Sports Channel. We appreciate it badly, and for this Game Time show live. Hope you had a good time. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for the stream live. Sorry I couldn't read them. Next time I'll do that because I don't see them here. So next time I'll definitely read them. The other
thing we could do, man. The other thing we could do is if they do pop up in the next however long, if you want to send them, we could like tweet out what was going on.
Oh wait, here we just got it. Sorry. Lyle 707 said just wanted to show some support to you guys. Thank you, Lyle. Justin Toner says, hey fellas, as a Bills fan, yesterday's loss was hard to take, but Bengals played better and earned the win. Bills have to do some serious reassessment of some things because this was a total team failure. Very frustrating, but still hopeful for next season. So those were the two. I had to go deeper into the tips area to see that. So thank you guys, both of you, for sending that in. I think we covered that about the Bills, right, Winston?
Run game. The whole team. If they figure out their run game, I think that the premature crown people wanted to give them, I think all of a sudden they can potentially earn that for real.
Yeah, and Josh Allen is young. I mean, let's be real. He's still young, figuring the game out for sure. So it's going to be fun in the AFC for sure next season.
Yes, it will.
All right, thanks so much for joining us, Winston. Where can they find you? Please plug everything you got going on, man.
Yeah. At the Swaggy Blurred, all the stuff. I've got a lot of fun stuff happening. on my platforms right now, doing a lot of behind the scenes work, man. If I turned my camera, you could see I just shifted all my lights and gear to the side because of stuff I've been going on. But definitely over on TikTok, man. We had a TikTok go viral over some bullshit with Southwest Airlines last week.
Oh, I know.
That's fun. That shit is fun. And over at Capes and Cows, man, on Christian Harloff's channel, that's doing gangbusters too. So appreciate all the support, everybody.
There you go. That's me. You can follow me at The Rocha Says on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And don't forget about the Patreon. We have the Patreon on the Outlaw Nation channel, supports all the shows. Please go and hit that up, patreon.com/John Rocha. See a tier that works for you in supporting all we got going on there. And come and find me. Oh, and remember to subscribe to the channel down below. Hit that subscribe button, hit that bell button, leave a comment, leave a like, and we'll talk to you next time with another brand new live episode. Don't forget, I'm going to be doing the watch-alongs of AFC and NFC Championship games on Sunday. We'll be covering them next week with Winston and I on a brand new episode of Game Time on Monday. Peace, y'all. Have a good week.